Hello everyone, welcome to Painting Crafty. If you're new here, my name is Melanie and I'm so glad you're here. And for my returning viewers, it fills my heart with joy knowing that you're grabbing your art materials and joining with me and creating something fun for yourself. Well, let's take a look at today's drawing. We're going to be doing a doodle pattern inside of this hair. We're going to be doing a very simple face shape. I'm going to break it down into steps that make it easy to follow. And then we're just going to create it. And this, you can get as creative as you want. And it doesn't have to look like mine to be good. You can create whatever doodle patterns that you might like to include in yours. For those of you who might like to have a little help with drawing, you can go ahead and go over to my Ko-fi page. That's where I keep my membership subscription there for all of my line drawings that I do on YouTube. It's nice sometimes to have a reference. I like having a reference to be able to draw from. So if this is something you might be interested in, pop on over to my Ko-fi page. It's easy to find, reasonably priced, and I'd love to have you there. I appreciate everyone who supports my page in that way. You can always buy me a cup of coffee as well, or Ko-fi is what they like to say. Well, let's take a look at our drawing and let's break down the shapes. So this is what it looks like when you get a line drawing. You can just print this off if you have a library. If you don't own a printer, you could do a library or a print shop. That was where you could easily get your line drawings. Now I draw a 6x6 normally when I draw. This is a great size to be able to put in a sketchbook to be able to keep it, or a journal, or it's a fun shape or size to be able to put it in a little frame and enjoy it and keep it out for a while. Well, let's take a look at our shape here. We're going to be starting with this U shape here for our face. She's got a little bit of a pointed of a jaw. Let's see if I can grab my black and white one to take a look. Let's go ahead and start with this part of the shape of her face. So I'm going to be using the center line here to build my face shape on. I'm going to come down. Now you could do this an egg shape. That would work, where you have that egg shape where your jaw is a little bit, or your chin is going to be narrower, and then it's going to come up on the side. You can have that shape. You can come up even just a little bit into this space here, just to give your eye an idea of how big your face is going to be. I like doing that little bit of a sketch pattern so I can warm my hand up and then I can decide where my line wants to be. Let's make this a little bit bigger so you have more view of what I'm doing. Now once I have my face of my shape of my face drawn, that's what I want to say, I can go ahead and put in some of her facial features. Now I'm doing a very whimsical style, so she's got very large eyes. She's got just a simple little nose. Let's go ahead and lay in the shape of her face. So if you want to, you could lighten this up because this wouldn't be where the lines of the eyes and the nose would go. Once I have my face drawn, I can do a line down the middle this way, and then I'm going to divide my face here in the middle as well. This is where my eyes are going to be. So I'm going to be starting my eyes here. They're just big almond shapes. I did do a little bit of a cat eye, which is kind of a fun shape to be able to add on there. And I'm going to be coming down here and adding and connecting. So I'm going to come on this side and do the same thing. Now there's nothing about this face that is anatomically correct as far as being the right proportions. These are very big eyes. They're very whimsical style, very dramatic. And it's just the look that I'm drawing today. Now, even though I have her eyes drawn very big, I want to go ahead and add the look of that. You don't see the whole round part of the eye. So you're going to be starting off to the edge and you're making partial circles. That's going to look like your eye is set back into her eye, I guess. If we draw just a round circle and we see the whole circle, she's going to look like she's surprised, like her eyes are open all the way. And if you didn't want that look, your eye actually goes over part of your eye, your eyeball. So I'm going to be drawing partial circles. I'm going to be seeing the left and the right, but not the top and the bottom of the shape of my eye. Now to make the black part of my eye, depending how stylized you want to do it, I made the black part fairly large as well, but you can make it smaller if you'd like. But I'm doing that real whimsical, wide-eyed girl in my picture. You could make it a full circle if you wanted to and make the eye or the pupil a little bit smaller if you wanted to. But I kind of wanted that really big-eyed girl look. Now let's go ahead and create a little bit of an eyelid, just the tiniest bit of eyelid on each side. That's just going to add just a little bit more interest to your eye. And again, nothing is exact, so you can just pop them in any which way they are. Now when I do these are never the same 2 times in a row. I can't draw them the same 2 ways, and they don't have to be drawn the same way every time. All right, so I have that part in. Now let's go ahead and drop her nose in and her lips. I'm going to be coming down here, and I'm going to look to see where the half point is here in between these 2 areas. And that's where my nose is going to go. Now I'm just going to be doing a simple little nose. This one got a little rounder. This one's a little bit more pointier, but it basically is an upside down 7 is what it is. So I'm going to be using part of mine. I'm going to start over here like my eyebrow. Look where I'd start here. I'm going to drop down. And then when I get to this line, that's where I'm going to create the end of my nose. And I'm just going to be doing that simple little nose shape. So I'm going to go ahead and erase that part. Now I'm going to do those little lips down below. And I'm doing very simple lips too. This is just an M shape that's there. And when I do my bottom lip, I'm going to come in just a little ways and not be the same width over all the way. And that's just going to give my mouth that kind of that little look of a small little pout look, I guess, or just a smaller lip look to it. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to be creating my M shape, a little flattened. And then I'm going to be coming down below and making this more of a U shape that's underneath here. And then you can go ahead and add a partial line all the way across, or partially just the small part of the lip, whatever you like. I'm going to be giving this gal some ears because she's going to be wearing earrings. On here, I probably got my ears a little too low. I should probably have them up. If you look here, go across from your ears. What do you come here to? Is your eyes. So your ears are kind of centered off of your eyes, at the top of your eyes. So if you just hold your finger here, take it across and feel, that'll tell you where your ears are supposed to be. I had them too low here. I need to be bringing them up a little higher. I'm just going to be doing some simple ears. Just like that. I'm just going to have a little bit of an earring. Add as creative earrings as you want to. I just added little round balls on mine, but these could be stars, moons. Since I'm doing a little rainbow cloud on there, maybe they could be little sunshines, or maybe they could be stars as well, or even I don't know. I'll be really interested in seeing what you create and you draw. I do have a Facebook page, Painting Crafty, and there you will see a post for this drawing that will be happening on YouTube. And if you do one and you would like to share it, you can always post it underneath there. I love sharing people's work because you give other people ideas and you also encourage others to try. And like I said earlier, it does not have to look like mine to be good. We all have different ideas of how to do things, and it's so fun to see them. Well, let's work a little bit more on this little gal. I'm going to be creating her hair. So I'm going to be coming around. I'm going to do a side part here. I'm going to come down where my line is here. I don't want to get too high up. I want to come down over her forehead and then come around this way. So this is going to be giving her kind of a side part look. Now to do her little creative hairdo here, I'm going to be starting down a little lower. I'm going to be coming out. You could do this balloon. Let's just call it like a hot air balloon shape first. We can start with that shape and then we can divide off our space any way we want to. So let's do this hot air balloon shape all the way over. I'm going to be leaving enough room. I had that little kind of a sweet little bird that was on top, just a fun little item. You can put any animal that you would like up there. It would be fun to see, oh, I don't know, a squirrel. Or I've seen ones done where they have cats on the top, which is super fun as well. So get as creative as you would like to be. Now I'm going to erase this out because I'm going to be creating and sectioning off my doodle patterns here. I might even want to go a little wider. I have plenty of room here to be able to draw. And so I might even want to go a little bit wider with my hair. This is all about the whimsy. So we can add all these little fun elements and make it our own. Okay, well that's looking a little better. She's got that little balloon look to her. Now this is when you can start sculpting off some of your details. So I'm going to be working down here. I'm going to make her little stylized hair. So I'm going to be coming down and giving a curl here and then back to her face. So I'm going to be starting up here and just coming down and making her little hair flip, coming around, back around, and then down. I'm going to start up here too. I'm going to start down, make a little flip, and then come back around. Now this one kind of looks like she's got pigtails. Like I said, they always turn out so different. Okay, so we got a little rounded area. I wanted to create kind of a little bun look that was on the end of my hair. So I'm going to start up, do that little bun look, and then come around. Now for her neck, I just did a long skinny neck and then just a simple little shoulder line down below, and then added some detail in whatever dress that she might like or would have. So once we have this shape here, this is where we're going to be starting in some of these extra shapes. So just start adding these rounded shapes first, and then sculpt your shape inside of there. And then inside of that area is where you're going to create your doodle patterns. Now you can always look in Pinterest and see doodle patterns, and you're going to come up with some great ideas. Or if there's just some simple things that you would like to create, just put those simply in there. I knew I wanted to put a house. These are like little lollipop trees. I have these little continuous type of patterns in there. And the reason why I threw these in here is because I wanted some of that very dark element of my pen work. So I wanted to create some of that pen work that was going throughout. Now let's go ahead and do this little simple bird shape. I'll show you how I created that. And we're going to do a check mark basically, where it's got a rounded belly here and then up. There's my tail. I'm going to come around and then come back down, come out for my tail. Now this little bird is facing straight on, so I'm going to be doing my two eyes, and then I'm just doing a simple little beak that's on there. Now you get to add a feather in the back and create a creative feather for the tail feather, and I just did simple little loops for my tail. This little guy I gave a little fancy hairdo to, so I did kind of like a little ice cream cone whippy dip on the top of his head, and then I just added my legs. I think legs always look good if they're separated a little bit, and then just I put 3 little toes on there is all I did, is how I added them there. So now when I went to go do my patterns, I would just start up and create these patterns with what I have here, and then just simply create as you're coming down and create your little patterns. This one has a line this way. It's going to come around. These are going to be different every time, and then just lay them in so you can get as creative as you want. Oh, let's put her neckline in, and then she'll look a little done. And then I just came across and made a simple little shoulder line, added a few decorations for her neckline, and create whatever you think you would like to have for her dress. I'll be interested to see what you do. I did add a few little elements in my background. I like using the color crayons, and I wanted to show you a simple wax resist that you can add a little bit of color in your backgrounds and throughout your picture too, if you wanted to, for your color crayons. Now the one thing about color crayons is that you do want to do your erasing, the major part of your erasing, before you add your color crayons on. Because if you put color crayon and then you erase it, it's going to smear on your picture. So this one I already have done. I did do a lot of Micron pen work. For this one I used my 01. Now the Microns are a permanent ink pen, so they won't move around once you put water on them. You can do the ink work on this stage, or you could do it after you do your watercolor. Either which way will work. And I just did it this time first I did add some white color crayon here that will act as a resist for my, I wanted white flowers, so I wanted to try to keep them white. So I did add a little bit of white color crayon in there. You might notice here how you can see that color is a little bit slightly broken. That's what color crayons will do, kind of, because the paper, if you're using watercolor paper, it's going to be a slight bumpy texture. So your color crayon is never going to fill all the way down in to the paper. And you get an interesting look of the wax being on the top and then the watercolor coming underneath. Well, let's go ahead and start doing some of this look. I'm going to be using just a simple set of watercolors tonight. This brand. It's just a very inexpensive color of watercolor. I'm kind of a believer, buy just a little bit more expensive paper. Not a lot expensive, just a little bit more expensive. And then buy the watercolors you can afford and start. And you can work with how and learning how watercolor works with watercolor paper, how it flows across your paper, and you go from there. Now I'm going to go ahead and start with my colorations of I'm going to start with her face actually. I have this little bit of a light color here. Maybe I'll even make it even more big so you can see the color pan a little easier. I'm going to start with this peach color for her skin tone. Now, this is just the first layer, so I can darken her flesh tone as I go. I'm going to start with this little bit of a kind of a softer peach color, and I'm going to lay that into her face. Now, with watercolor, you always start light and then work your way dark. With watercolor, you're basically painting the shadows. So it's the opposite of acrylic paint. It's all about the layers and seeing those colors come glowing through. I'm also going to take a little bit of this. I'm going to tap my brush so I don't have a lot. And I'm going to put this a little bit in the whites of her eyes, because our eyes, even though the whites of our eyes, they're not really necessarily super white. They actually have a little bit of color. So I'm going to use that same color that I'm using on her flesh tone there. And since this is wet, I need to choose an area to work in next that's not going to touch that, because my colors would run together. Watercolor always wants to float where the paper is wet. So I need to choose a different spot. And I'm going to go ahead and choose that little bird right at the top, because it is far enough away. I know I don't have to worry about it blending into my other areas. And I'm just going to choose a little bit of red right here onto my set. There we go. We can kind of see a few things. The watercolor, I had already had that color in my palette. So the interesting or the really cool thing about watercolor is that you can use the dried paint. All you have to do is add a little bit more water and you can reconstitute it and use it again. So I'm going to add just a little bit of white or red there. White. I was thinking white because I was thinking about my flowers here and how I did that color resist on it. Let's go ahead and add for her hair. Now, I did a redhead because you know I love to do redheads. I'm going to be using a little bit of orange first in my area. And I'm also going to be kind of changing up the amount of pigment that is inside of my orange for my orange hair. Now I'm going to go right over that. I did do those flowers in a white crayon, so that will help do a little resisting. I'm using the Princeton Velvet Touch brushes. They have a nice round tip on them. They will bounce back after you use them. So it's a great tool to use that way, or for a brush. It's really nice to have these sharp little points when you're doing these little decorative paintings. Now I'm going to just carry on with the same step. At this point, I'll probably speed some of those areas up, because it's basically doing the same process in every area, and you can just watch how I'm applying the colors. So I'm basically starting with dry paper and then putting my wet paint on, and then coming back in when my paint is dry a little bit, and then deepening the colors. So that's how I'm going to proceed. So come along and either paint while I'm painting, or you can take a watch and then go back and do your very own. In some of these areas here, I know I'm going to be putting some colors that I probably not going to want the orange behind. So I'm going to be just kind of painting around them so I don't really get a lot of orange in those areas because they might end up just making a brown color by mixing the colors over top of my orange. So I'm looking at going around them. And when I'm coming in with that next color, I'm looking at painting the shadows. So I want to kind of think about like where would some of my highlights be? And I want to make sure I'm leaving some of that original color that I painted popping through on my paper so not everything is covered. So think about areas that might be shadowed or where you would want to have shadows. And I'm kind of concentrating on the ends so I have a division line on each of my layers so there looks like a separation somewhere because I want it to make it look like it's sectioned off. I think she looks pretty cute with her hair done. I think I'm going to take a little bit kind of a reddish brown here, mix a few of my browns in and just give it even a nice darker color as well, more of a rust color if I can make that work. I don't have a great amount of browns in this set, but I'll mix them together and kind of come up with my own. I'm using a lot less water in these little accent areas and more pigment. So I'm going just basically directly out of my color box here with just the tip and to add a little less water. I want to make sure I can have more control over these areas. So I want to have less water and just be able to add a little bit of accent color on there without flooding my whole areas with color. A little bit darker flesh tone, so I'm going to be taking my peach color and then adding a little bit of my browns over here as well and building up that next layer of skin tone. Forgot to do her ears, so I need to make sure I get those done as well. Her neck would be the, dark because there would definitely be a shadow underneath there. Add this color to her ears just to get a color on there. I would add some to the outside of her cheeks, underneath the cheeks as well, or underneath her eyes, underneath her hairline because that would be darker. The outside here. I chose to have a slightly darker shadow line on that side of her face, so I'm going to keep this one lighter on this side. I'm going to do it a little bit darker underneath her nose. But again, this is just more of a whimsical look, so I'm not going to get too caught up on being exact. The darker lip is always going to, the top lip will always be a little bit darker and the bottom lip will always be a little lighter. Okay. Now let's work some on her eyes. I did do blue eyes on my other gal. This time I think I might do a little bit of green and a little bit of blue. So I'm going to take this darker green color up here that I have and I'm going to do a light wash of that color. And I'm going to be choosing that for her eye color over here. Try something a little different. I do these pictures more than once when I'm drawing them, so it's always nice to try something a little different the next time. But when I did my blue eye, all I did was do this first layer like I'm doing my green, and then I added my blue. Now I'm going to give that a chance to dry. I probably will come in and do the detail of the dark part of her eye with my Micron pen as well as her eyelashes. I'll come in and add that and probably not put it in with a watercolor. So we'll just let that sit. Now let's go ahead and add some cheeks on there. I'm going to be using similar color to that pink that I did on her lips. I'm going to do that on her cheeks. So I'm going to just blush that color in. I'm tapping it on with the tip of my brush and not a perfect circle. And I'm going to go ahead and rinse out my brush, give it a squeeze, and then I'm going to come in and push and pull that color a little bit just to soften it and try not to get just this little round apple of color on there. I'm going to add just a little bit more water on the ends. I'm pushing and pulling and just trying to soften up that color so it's a blushing of color. I think that looks good. I'm going to stop right there. Let's work a little bit more on those eyes. I'm going to take a number 3 this time, and let's work a little bit on there. Now, usually your eyes, all living things have a catch light, so there would be a white spot in her eye. I'm going to go ahead and just do a scribbling motion, and I'm going to try to leave a white spot if I can. Now, if you end up not leaving a white spot, you can always go back in and put it in with like acrylic paint, or if you have white gouache, you could add it on with that way, or even a Uniball pen that's a white ink. That will work really well too for adding in your whites. I do like to do it this way if I can because I like the irregularness of the highlights, the way it looks. Okay, I think that brings her to life. As soon as you have that little sparkle to her eye, it just really does bring her to life. Now I'm going to be adding some eyelashes in here. So I'm going to come back with my 01, and I'm going to be giving her some drama eyelashes. Up high this time, maybe a few down low. She's looking really cute. I think I'm going to add a little bit red to her cheeks. Or not her cheeks, but her mouth. I'm going to come in with a little bit more red and add just a hint of red to that top lip. And again, if you a little white area on your lip looks great too. You can add that on the bottom lip. You can either try to lift it with your color to give it a little bit lighter look, or you can always go in and put a little bit of a white pop-in mark with your Uniball pen, if you have one, or a little bit of gouache, or even a little bit of acrylic paint. Well, let's work a little bit on her bottom of her background. I just chose to use a simple pink background. I choose the same color that I use other places on her dress and on her, not her dress, but in her hair and all those different areas. I'm doing it very watered down. And now I can just go right over my color crayons, and where the color crayons are, that color will resist from the wax. It's kind of a fun look. Okay, I'm also going to take my paper towel a little bit, and I'm going to touch this as well. It's damp, and I'm going to be creating a little bit more pattern with my paper towel just by lifting the color. I'm going to hold it up really close so you can see what that cloud looks like where the wax is not, that pink adhered to the white paper. It gives it a very interesting look. Over here with the same with the color crayons, if the camera will pick it up. And there she is. Make sure you sign your work when you get done, even these little whimsical ones. I'm going to put my name right here. I like to sign in pencil. Well, that is it for my fun little doodle girl hairdo, fun whimsical drawing. If you do one and you would like to share it, just go on over to my Painting Crafty page and post it underneath the where it shows the banner of where I'm going to be doing this draw along. I'd love to see your work. I love to share your work. And again, if you would like to have some extra help drawing, there is I do have a Ko-fi page. You can come on over there. And after today's drawing, if you found that you enjoyed this, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. YouTube really loves it. I'd love to have some more creative friends join me. So if you might want to consider subscribing, I'd love to have you come along in this little art journey with me. We have lots of fun every week. I usually always post on Tuesdays, and then it varies, Saturdays. But if you go ahead and ring the bell, YouTube will send you a notification of when I have a video up. Again, thanks so much for joining me and hanging out and having a little bit of art fun.